All right, everyone, welcome to our financial independence. Today, we are going to be discussing generational wealth. How does generational wealth help our families to achieve financial independence? Well, I'd like to welcome you to AI Mutual. We are your lifetime insurance agency. As you can see here and see this beautiful family, we have several generations. We want to make sure that each generation is set up for success. So, what are we going to talk about today? What are we going to cover? Well, some questions include what is generational wealth? Why it's imperative for your family to own a life policy, and how to effectively pass down wealth to future generations. So, what is generational wealth? And a lot of people get this question a lot, right? Especially from their financial services or advisor. What is generational wealth? Well, a generic answer may be wealth passed down from one generation to the next. I mean, that's easy, right? That's what we kind of comes to mind when we think about generational wealth. Well, that may seem self-explanatory, one would say, but to fully grasp what this means, we need to understand and break down the equation. All right, so here you see the equation. Successive family units plus residual assets equals generational wealth. That's what it really is, okay? So let's go ahead and break that down even further. Definition of wealth. What does wealth mean? Wealth is the abundance of valuable financial assets or physical possessions which can be converted into a form that can be used for transactions. All right, we're really going to deep dive into this, you guys, okay? So key words from this definition of wealth I want you guys to remember is abundance, assets, and conversion. So what is abundance? Abundance means a lot, a very large quantity of something, right? In order to have generational wealth being passed down from generation to generation, you're going to have a lot of something. You can't just have $2 in the bank and say, okay, I want all of this to be good for my grandchild and great grands. $2 is not enough, right? We need an abundance, okay? We need a great quantity of something. So what is assets? Property owned by a person or company regarded as having value and available to meet debts, commitments, or legacies. And in this instance, we're talking about legacies, right? We want enough assets to be able to meet our commitments to our future heirs. And I love that. I love how it says we're required to do this, right? And then we're committed to do this, right? We are committed, right? You and I are committed. So examples of assets include life insurance, which we're talking about today, real estate, autos, jewelry, bank accounts, CDs, annuities, IRAs, etc. Conversion. This was that third key word in the definition of wealth. That means to change or transform. So you have to have something you have to have some type of asset that can be changed, right, or transformed into something of value. And I love that. This is very important because a lot of people have an abundance of stuff, right? You go to their house, it's just junk everywhere. But it really can't be converted into money to meet financial obligations. The goal here is to have or to create an abundance of something that holds value that can be converted to meet financial obligations. Let's go into the definition of generational. So we kind of talked about it a little bit. It's relating to or characteristic of all the people born and living about the same time regarded collectively. So here we are talking about a current or future family collective unit, also known as descendants, heirs, and offspring. And I just want to stop right there. We have to start using the word descendants, heirs, and offspring. We ourselves are descendants. We ourselves are heirs, and we ourselves are offspring. What have our previous family members left us to be successful in this world today? Okay. Some people may say nothing. Some people may say a spiritual legacy. Some people may even have been left a house. We have to look at that because the goal is to be able to pass something down from generation to generation. Okay. Some other words you may see instead of generational wealth includes inheritance and legacy. But one thing I wanted to go back up to the definition of generation. I love the definition of it. It says relating to the characteristic of all the people born and living about the same time. So it doesn't mean a generation is every 10 years or every 15, 20 years. They don't have a specific time for that. They're just talking about a collective group of people who were born around the same time. So think about your cousins. It's interesting how this thing works out, right? This thing called life works out. At least for my family, all of my cousins were born around the same time. We're born around the same year. And now that we are grown and we have kids, our kids, believe it or not, were born around the same time. So those would each be collective units. Each of those would be a generation, okay? And there are some families that we know who embody this philosophy of passing down generational wealth. And I have some of those here, okay? So the first one we're going to start off with are the Rockefellers. So yes, we know them, especially if you're from the United States. Their net worth is $11 billion. How did they achieve this? Well, from government, real estate, and trust, okay, and also oil. One thing I love about them, their trust funds, they make sure to leave money for generations to come. We can do that as well, okay? Another family that comes to mind is the Kennedy family. When you hear someone with the last name Kennedy, you're like, okay, you come from some money, you come from some importance. And it started with one gentleman and their family who wanted to make a difference for their family, okay? So how a lot of their family members are in government, real estate, and again, they pass money down from generation to generation through trust. One thing I do like about the Kennedy family is they're the original person who started this, the original Kennedy. I don't have his name in front of me now, but he actually got, of course, became very wealthy. And he had to sit down with his kids. He kind of talked to them about where you're going to be. You're going to be in medicine. You're going to be in legal or law. You're going to be in government. How strategic is that to be able to place each child in a different industry and then have them dominate that industry? Wow, that's like built-in success, okay? So another thing I like here is the royal family. Love them or hate them, the royal family really understands the power of legacy, okay? And here, as you can see, their net worth as of last year, 2020, is 13.4 billion euros. Lots of money. And of course, they're in government and they're in business. And they are very strict, which we've kind of learned, right? About how they want their money to be passed down. So let's continue. Now we're going to go see what the Bible has to say about inheritance. One thing I love about the Bible is that God wants us to be successful. He wants us to be wealthy down here, physically on earth, and then also to enjoy the riches in heaven. We don't have to live a poor life and struggle down here on earth and say, okay, woe is me. But when I get to heaven, I get to have my mansion, robe, and crown. Technically, you can have your mansion, robe, and crown down here on earth if you practice sound financial habits. And we actually had an Investing 101 class last year for our high society members. And our high society members, the HI stands for Happy Insurance, but these are going to be for our clients, okay, for AI Mutual's clients. So if you're a client of ours, you're automatically a part of our high society membership. And one thing we loved about the 101 class and 101 investing class, there are so many different examples throughout the Bible where it shows us about why it's important to not only save, but it's important to invest, why it's important to work so we can make gain and make our future bright for our children. God talks a lot about setting up those that he had as chosen, that he deemed as chosen, his chosen people back in the day. He set them up with success by giving them land, by telling them, hey, look, this land that I'm giving you is going to be for your children's children. We need to start thinking about that. Have we purchased land? Have we stated to our children, hey, this land, this 10 acres that I have is going to be for you and your children's children, or this house that I own today is going to be for you and your children's children? This life policy that I have, this $2 million life policy I have is going to set up you and your children. So we have to start thinking like that. We can't just continue to live in the moment, because the moment fades away. And those who are wise and smart will prosper 100 years from now, 1,000 years from now. I mean, we have to even get to the point now where we start talking about having, land or I would say, abundance, or I should say wealth or assets or something in space. We have to start thinking about that. I know I listen to a lot of various podcasts, and that's where we're headed. That's where the future is headed to. Okay. Also, the future down here, there's going to be a lot of resources that are going to become scarce. So we have to start thinking too, how can we set our future families up for success? Do I need to obtain a water well? I need to get land that has a water well on it. Do I need to start catching water? Do I need to start making sure, even if it's in my house, in my backyard, or get land to be able to start raising animals so we can have food, so we can have milk? So you have to think like that, because in a minute, we're not going to have those things, or if it's available, it's going to be very expensive. We already see how inflation is today. We have to continue to think about that I word, inflation. You know, $100 back in 1950 is not worth the same as $100 today. You can, of course, purchase less product, you know, it loses its value. So yes, you may have, you know, $200,000 in the bank. Is that going to be enough for your family, 20, 30 years from now? Is it still going to be the same? It's still going to be worth 200,000. So we have to take all that in consideration. So what does the Bible say? So let's continue right here. I love this verse. Proverbs chapter 13, verse 22. It says, a good person leaves an inheritance for their children's children. And I love how God was being nice by saying a good person. And it really implies that you're a bad person if you don't. And we don't want to be bad people, do we? We want to be good people. So in order to be a good person, you have to leave an inheritance for your children and their children. That's 3 generations he talks about in this one quick verse. So a good person is generation 1, leaves an inheritance for their children, that's generation 2, and children's children, that's generation 3. So one thing I like about God, again, he's a visionary. He's looking towards the future. He's futuristic. He's at least saying you have to look at least 3 generations out. Imagine if each generation was dedicated to that principle. They will forever be set up, okay? Let's go to the next one. Psalms chapter 112, verses 1 through 3. It says, blessed is the man who fears the Lord, who finds great delight in his commands. His descendants will be mighty in the land. The generation of the upright will be blessed. Wealth and riches are in his house, and his righteousness endures forever. So a lot of different things that I love in here too. The first thing is to fear the Lord. Okay. Don't think you are God. I know a lot of people think they're many gods. Okay. Well, okay. That's fine. As long as you don't think you're the ultimate God, I guess. But you have to fear him. You have to know that he has complete authority over your life. And then when you do that, you will respond a certain way down here on this world, right? There are certain things you just won't do. There are certain groups or activities you just won't participate in, okay? Because you have respect, because you fear God. And I love this in verse 2. He says his descendants will be mighty in the land, okay? And the generation of the upright will be blessed. So again, living a godly life, you will be blessed. And he wants us to have wealth and riches. He said wealth and riches in verse 3 are in his house, and his righteousness endures forever. Again, God doesn't want us to be broke down here, struggling, crying, woe is me, complaining, sad, angry. You know, those are byproducts of life, but some of those things we have ownership of, right? We have ownership of some of those things. If we want to go out and instead of spending $100 every month, being dedicated to a life policy, we want to spend it on, going out to eat or getting some makeup or whatever have you, just because we all kind of waste money here and there. And then when someone passes away in the family, we don't have a policy in place. And then we're crying, we're on, GoFundMe, we're having fish fries, we're asking the ministers to take care of the service for us. And it's like some of this we have ownership of. We can't blame everything for everything that happens in our life, right? So once we do those things and we become dedicated to our families, I always say insurance is love because it requires sacrifice. Again, this insurance is something that we probably won't see ourselves, right? Because we're going to be dead and gone. But we want to make sure those that we love are set up for success. And so we want them to be rich. We want them to continue being wealthy. We don't want all of it to stop when we stop. If we're the breadwinner for our homes, if we pass away and there's nothing in place, wow. I mean, I just feel sad for your family. Everything stops at that point. And again, they're starting from zero. And one thing we have to get out of as a race is starting over from zero each and every generation. You know, we have to get into the principle of leaving a legacy for our family. That way, wow, you left someone $200,000. Now they have a $200,000 head start. They don't have to start over from zero. Not only monetary do we have to leave that, but we have to also start leaving knowledge and history. A lot of us don't know our history. We don't know where we come from. We're not passing down, those rituals anymore or those recipes anymore. We're not talking about those experiences that grandpa had that helped him endure whatever back in the day, that we can use those same principles to help us today. We have to start doing that. Our future matters. We have to start caring about our heirs. We want them to be set up not only book smart, but also street smart. Okay. We want them to know what it takes to really make it in this world. And so the question here is, so what do you want your physical and spiritual legacy to be for your family? This is something where you need to just be in a quiet room, maybe at a desk, or maybe you could sit at a beach and just you and yourself and just start visioning. We need to get back into visioning. Okay. We don't vision enough. We just look at TV and let TV tell us what our future life should look like. And for some of us, that's not a good thing because they don't want our future to look like anything. They don't want us to have a future, and their future for us is bleak. So we have to start sitting down and taking account and responsibility for ourselves and say, hey, look, what am I going to do today to ensure that the life that I want for my family to have physically and spiritually will be so? And you can do that. Next thing is, how much wealth are you leaving to your future heirs or your family? Again, taking account of that inflation, taking account of how expensive housing is today. So imagine how much it's going to be in 20, 30 years. Education, college is so expensive. Take that into account, how much it's going to be in 30 years. This is where you need to start having conversations with your children or children's children. What are you guys interested in doing? Oh, great. You want to be an engineer. You want to be a lawyer. Start researching today to figure out how much it is in today's dollars. And then so that we can figure out, okay, wow, it's going to be X amount of dollars by then. So you can put that a part of your plan to figure out how much your total dollar amount is you need to leave for them. All right. And then again is the plan. So we need to start sitting down either on a monthly basis, quarterly basis, or at least an annual basis with our family members, with our beneficiaries. Let them know what you have. I know sometimes in our communities, we don't want to let people know because we don't want anyone to kill us. We think that's going to happen. I don't know where we're getting all that from, but a lot of white successful families, they actually do sit down every year and talk about the family plan. They talk about their goals. They talk about where they currently are, what they accomplished last year, what they hope to accomplish. They let everyone know their individual responsibilities. They go over it. It's a business, okay? And in order to compete, in order to be successful, in order to ensure your family is set up for future successes, we have to start doing that, okay? So let's go and talk about this thing. We're going to come back to that in a minute, but I want to talk about why I'm just pushing everything for us to get our plan and our house in order. Because in 2053, there will be zero wealth for Black people. Yes, you read that right. Why do I have a picture of a presidential candidate who is a presidential hopeful, Andrew Yang, here? He is the one who first put it on a map. Like, we kind of already knew about this for those who are in tune with some of the Powernomics and books of that nature. But he's the one who put it out there for the entire United States to hear on the when he was running for the president. Oh, he's running for president on the debates. That word slipped my mind. When he was in the debates, okay? Even when he was on some of the radio shows, he pointed this out as well. And it is true. Zero wealth will be for Black America in 2053. Well, that's not really that far away. It's already 2021 now, okay? So we need to think about this. Think about your future generations, your children. How old will they be in 2053? So at that age, my child will be taking care of me, more than likely, right? But your children will be of age where they're still probably working, where they're still in corporate America, where they're still running their own business. How is life going to look for them if there is zero wealth in their community? Okay. So we have to make sure we have funds in place, policies in place to where our legacies will be great. So now what we're going to do is go back to life insurance and talk about how life insurance can actually help out with that. Okay. So here, as you can see, why life insurance? Some studies show that as many as 40% of the people that die in the United States have no life insurance at all. And over 50 million people in the US are underinsured or don't even own their insurance. And I would be very curious to see what the numbers look like when they're posted next year, because as you know, a lot of people are not even working. Okay, so that means more and more people have no individual life policies. So my thing I'm trying to tell you today is do not become a statistic. You don't have to. You can actually put something in place today, okay? Some of the benefits of getting a life insurance policy include, first and foremost, paying final expenses. So what is that? Final expenses is for your funeral costs. We all are going to die. We all want to be buried or cremated or whatever your vision is. Some people want a small funeral. Other people want a very extravagant funeral. Some people may want to be buried in a mausoleum, which will cost a little bit more money. You have to, again, sit down and figure out and plan how you want your funeral to look like. Because you don't want your family spending, $50,000 if you're okay with a $10,000 funeral, and vice versa, right? You don't want them just putting you in, cremating you if you really wanted a lavish funeral. So that is something, again, we need to think about, put in writing, so that way it'll be put in place and executed when that time comes. Another thing that your life insurance policy can cover is your children's educational expenses. And I left that pretty broad. I didn't just say college expenses, which a lot of agents try to say, or advisors just push, because I don't know about you, but I look on my Facebook feed all the time and I have friends whose kids are so amazing. Like when I tell you they will become the next Mia or the next Michael Jordan, you're looking at them. So these families are on the move now while their kids are in elementary, middle school, and high school. They're circuiting the entire United States, going from competition to competition. And that's not cheap. Having your child in private, receiving one-on-one, training or in group trainings, therapy sessions, having specialized meals. They're really training their kids for professional sports, and that costs money. What would really hurt is if one of the parents passed away or both parents passed away, and there's no money for those kids to be able to continue those things. They will already be struggling with the death of their parent. Now they would have to be pulled out of a sport that they love, something that they could pretty much, just immerse themselves in, to kind of get their minds off of anything negative or anything sad happening in their family. So you don't want to do that. So you want to make sure that you have enough money, not only for their college expenses, but also for their current education. Maybe they're in private school. Maybe they are taking specialized classes in coding or things of that nature, but then also for their sports programs as well. Of course, here is very important to replace the spouse's income. This is for, I'm gonna give you two examples. So if you have a breadwinner, you definitely have to make sure you have an insurance policy in place, because if they pass away, there's $0 coming into the household. So their income must be replaced. But even if you have two people in your household or more, there could be other adults living in your household as well, who are bringing income. If they pass away and you were relying on their income to make it, and sometimes right now with how expensive everything is going, sometimes if you have two parents working, then their bills or expenses are equivalent to two incomes, So if one passes away, they're definitely taking a few steps back. To pay off debts, that's important. Buy a business partner's shares and pay off estate taxes. When you pass away, those taxes do not disappear. Those estate taxes must be paid. So choosing the right product, okay? So there's many choices out there, and I have other presentations that go into this a little bit more detailed, because today we're just talking about generational wealth, but I at least want to cover some of those options with you so you can get an idea of what's available to you. So the first would be term insurance. What is term insurance? Well, it provides a level premium and a level death benefit protection for a stated period of time, such as 10 years or 20 years. And now in some cases, it goes up to 40 years. That's something new. It usually just went up to 30 years. But as of last year, in 2020, they have made policies available for 35 and 40 years. Depending on your age, everything's dependent on your age, okay? So the younger you are, the more years or term that you have available to you. There is no cash accumulation in a term policy. Generally, you receive more insurance coverage at a cheaper premium cost. And premium means how much you're paying for the policy. And that could be either monthly or annually. Okay, so if we said $50 a month is your premium, that's how much you'll be paying. If you got a 30-year term, that means you'll be paying $50 a month each year for 30 years. Okay, so I love it because it's leveled. You don't have to worry about it increasing. You are locking in your rate. This is another one here that I love that a lot of agents do not sell. They don't even know about it. Some of them don't. But we do have the opportunity for this for you if you're interested. But it's term with return of premium. So I know I actually had a gentleman who says longevity is just in his family. It runs in his family. He was letting me know about all these people who lived in their 90s and who even made it over 100. And he was like, you know what, Nicole, I actually want my premiums back. I don't want to pay 30 years, and at the end of 30 years, I have nothing. He says, I want all of the premiums that I put into the policy back, because they do say 100%. Now, I personally done the calculations because I always like to verify everything. And I've noticed that it's anywhere from 91% to about 96% of the premiums that you receive back. Okay. But that's still awesome. So after 30 years, you will get a lump sum check back to you. So that's great. Also, even if you do not, complete your 30 years, we'll just give an example of 30 years. Even if you didn't complete your 30 years, you went 15 years, you are still able to get back the premiums that you put into your policy. I like that because we already know that in 2053, our communities will have zero net wealth, right? And so we don't know how our future is going to look. We don't know if we are going to need money at that time or we're going to be thriving. So what I say is have options. Having access to money when you need it is always a great thing. And if you can pay a little extra, because for this particular advantage or benefit, you will have to pay a little bit extra per month. But if you can do it, go ahead and do it. The next thing is the permanent. So people kind of know this as whole life insurance because it was first on the scene. It provides a death benefit and possible cash savings. So it does accumulate cash. The initial premium for permanent insurance is higher than for term insurance with a comparable death benefit. A portion of the premium may be invested, eventually providing a buildup of cash value. Generally, you receive less coverage at a higher premium cost. So for those who want to get the most coverage, definitely select term. One thing about permanent insurance, this can go until age 95 or age 100 or 120, just depending on the carrier. Most carriers are going down to age 100. So they're trying not to go over 100 anymore. But at least this way you don't have to renew anything, and you also can accumulate cash. Some people like it because they can take out loans on this. Okay, so again, you have access to money in the event you need it. Of course, you have to pay a interest rate because you are taking out a loan and it has to be paid back. So I would definitely do that. But one thing I would encourage you to do is just calculate that. What you don't want to do is take out a loan and not pay it back, and interest is steadily accruing. And then when you pass away, your kids have to pay back that loan and still don't have any money, right, for generational wealth. So just kind of take that into consideration. And we talked about him. So let's talk about some people that I admire who talked about legacy. I absolutely love this. Okay, so we all know about the Marathon Continues Nipsey Hussle. Okay, one thing I loved about him was that he actually left $1 million policy for his family. And this gentleman did have money. He had I forgot how many millions he had, but he already was a millionaire. Okay. He already owned businesses. He owned up a whole block in Los Angeles. So he was already leaving wealth for his family, but he still knew the importance of having a life insurance policy. And so he actually had $1 million life insurance policy. That's very wise, because when you own property and things of that nature, it can all get tied up, right? If a court's trying to decide who's supposed to get the money, especially if you didn't have a will. But if you have a life policy, you have to designate a primary beneficiary. So that individual is able to receive those funds very quickly, probably within 2 weeks, a month or so, okay? Once everything clears. Another person that I really admire is Jay-Z. And the reason why I admire him is because he's actually rapping about generational wealth. Who does that? A lot of rap today, we had a lot of conscious rap, especially during my era growing up. But a lot of people now don't really rap so much about that. You have a few artists who do. So let's take a look about what he says in this particular song, and it's called Album 444. Okay, here it goes. He said, take the monies and spread across families. He says, my sisters, Hattie and Lou, the nephew's cousin, and TT Eric, the rest to be as his wife for whatever she wants to do. She might start an institute. She might put poor kids through school. My stake in Rock Nation should go to you. Leave a piece for your siblings to give to their children too. And how cool is that? He's giving money to his wife. He's giving money to his sisters, his nephews, his cousins. He's saying, hey, look, with this money, don't just spend it and squander it. Okay, just don't buy, clothes and cars and things of that nature. He's like, hey, go out and start a school for poor kids. Okay. He says his stake in Rock Nation, which is his business, should go to be as well. He says he's even given her enough money to leave for her siblings. That's a lot of love right there, because he's not really required to do that, but he wants her sisters or her siblings to be able to have money for their kids as well. And then also he says he has a lot of other businesses that he names. He says Tidal, the champagne, Duasi. I like to see a nice piece, fun ideas from people who look like we. So basically what he's saying here, and he's doing it, I see it all the time on social media, he wants us to start investing in people who look like us, okay? Because a lot of people don't. So I love the fact that he's doing that. He's doing that especially like in tech and technology. He also says we're going to start a society within a society. So we have America, but then we can have a Black America, okay? They used to have this with the Negro Society. They had a Negro League within a league. And he wants to get that for us to do that again. He said there was a time America wouldn't let us ball. Those times are now back. Just called Afrotech. Generational wealth. That's the key. My parents ain't have nothing. So that nothing started with me. Again, no one passed anything down to him. But guess what? He's taken responsibility and said, hey, those generational curses end. We're starting a new generational legacy of success, and it's starting with myself. He said, my mom took her money. She bought me bonds. That was the sweetest thing of all time. Okay. So, his mom did at least try to leave him something, and he appreciates that. He probably appreciates that than a pair of shoes that she bought him. And we have to start getting out of this materialistic mindset and start getting into something about assets that really hold value, okay? That's going to be passed down from generation to generation. So look at this beautiful family here. They're so cute, right? Look at this. They have the son and the daughter, and we want them to be set up with success, okay? So we want to leave them a legacy, okay? We want to make sure that we can take care of our debts, any of our liabilities that's old. You can actually go to www.aimutual.com to figure out how much money you should get your life policy for. And we need to teach our kids about entrepreneurship, home ownership, and land ownership. We need to effectively pass down wealth to future generations. The rule of three, we just saw it in the biblical principles, the generation one, generation two, generation three. Sometimes there is a generational curse where a lot of families lose all the money after the third generation, or sometimes the fourth, if they don't have God in their lives, and start back over from zero. We don't want that to happen, and that's what we're talking about today. So I just appreciate everyone attending our generational wealth presentation today. Let's get serious. Let's get it started. Let's not procrastinate. We don't know if we personally have time, but the time that God has gifted us, we want to use it wisely. When he sees that we're doing things wisely, he will bless you with more. All right. Here's our contact information here. 214-463-1863. This is our physical location. We are in Waco, Texas. However, we definitely service several states. So definitely give us a call. Again, our website is www.aimutual.com, and send us an email for your quick quote. And that's quote@aimutual.com. Thank you so much. And I hope you guys have a great day.